It's a very special honor to welcome the Prime Minister to my brother's library and to introduce him now, the Taoiseach that we all admire, Prime Minister Bertie Ahern.
Thanks very much, Senator Kennedy, and thank you for your kind words. It's a great honour to be back here again in the Kennedy Library in Boston. A great occasion for us to be here, and a great occasion to be with you, Ted, to be with Jean, and to be with Vicky and with Caroline and all of the family and your friends, to the representatives that are here, to the distinguished guests, the members of the diplomatic corps, to Ambassador Foley, Ambassador Collins, our Consul General here. I want to thank Senator Kennedy for those kind words of introduction. It's a great honour to be back here and at the library, and to mark my final stop on my visit to the United States. My last one as Taoiseach, in the company of so many good friends, and no better place to end up than in the Kennedy Library, so it's a great honour for us. Ireland owes the Kennedy family far more than any speech could make, and I could not signify all that the Kennedys mean to Ireland in the few minutes that I have. But I do want to say that we've held our breath with you when President Kennedy won his famous victory in November 1960. We watched as he inspired America. We felt that inspiration ourselves, as the whole world did, and we felt new possibilities opened up, the re-emergence of hope and humanity in a world that had become filled with new danger. We welcomed him with pride to our shores in June of 1960, and we joined in the passionate determination felt across the globe that his vision must and would live on. Senator Robert Kennedy took up that challenge, and once more uniting courage and principle and eloquence in the pursuit of a better society and a better world. And in the generation that followed in Ireland, we needed those qualities more than ever as we sought a way out of conflict. And we were fortunate indeed that we had, as the representative of the United States in Dublin, someone who embodied that tradition, Jean Kennedy Smith, whose advice, whose guidance was so valuable in that journey. And I join with what Senator Ted has said in thanking Jean. She was as tough as you needed to be when the going was tough, and we appreciated that. And through all of this, ladies and gentlemen, through the talks, through the conflict, through the war and the words, we had the wisdom and the foresight of your hometown Senator Edward Kennedy, who walked with us on the path to peace and reconciliation. To paraphrase another famous Massachusetts leader, John Quincy Adams, there are just some people who inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more. An Irish appreciation and affection for our great friend Ted will resonate in our hearts and our history books long, long into the future. When Thomas Fitzgerald left Limerick at around the time a cooper called Patrick Kennedy also packed his bags, the adventure on which they would embark in America could be shared by wives Rosanna and Bridget Murphy, Rosanna Cox and Bridget Murphy, from the counties of Cavan and Wexford respectively. And there could have been no realisation, however, as that they each left their place of birth, that in their great-grandchildren, many generations later, they would bequeath men and women who would so inspire the peace and reconciliation which had eluded their homeland for so long. And there are, of course, many men and women throughout the United States of America to whom Ireland will forever be in debt. But it is right and proper today that we pay tribute and due tribute to a truly remarkable family that all that they have given for a now a peaceful and prosperous Ireland. And to you, Ted, for all of the years you had so many other things that you were doing that you've done successfully, but you stuck with it through us all the way from the late 60s, and that's a long time for any politician, a long way away to be supportive of us, and we're deeply grateful for that. Nowhere is President Kennedy's legacy better sustained and promoted than here at the John F. Kennedy Presidential Library and Museum, an outstanding institution ever since the doors opened up here in October 1979. And in recent years, the library has expanded its mission beyond the preservation and display of the physical and archival achievements of President Kennedy's legacy. This is now a vibrant international centre, host to a range of educational programs and public conferences on the protection of human rights, the resolution of conflicts, and the promotion of peace throughout the world. And I want to congratulate Caroline Kennedy in particular for her vision in expanding the ambitious and achievements of this library to encapsulate so many of the ideals for which her father and her family are rightly renowned. In this year, the 45th anniversary of the President's visit to Ireland, I'm pleased to announce that the John F. Kennedy Presidential Library and Museum is to receive Irish Government funding of $2 million to support projects celebrating the shared commitment of Ireland and the United States to President Kennedy's ideals. The projects showcase Ireland's distinctive contributions to Americans' modern political and cultural thought, and will help ensure that the Kennedy legacy is extended to new generations of citizens and leaders in the United States, Ireland and worldwide. President Kennedy, ladies and gentlemen, inspired Ireland and the Irish people with a new confidence in our ability to play a key role on the international stage. In the 45 years since that great week in June of 1963, we have gone on to prove that the President's confidence was well-founded, both at home and abroad. And Ireland today is culturally vibrant, economically prosperous, and thankfully at peace. The contributions Irish people have made in the United States and beyond, politically, economically, socially and culturally, fill us with pride, just as they elevate the profile of standing of Ireland internationally. And I think the very best qualities of our diaspora continue to be displayed in Irish America. A culture that marries the great optimism, the determination, the drive of the American spirit with the creativity, the good humour and generosity of approach that perhaps symbolises the essence of what it is to be Irish. The wonderful political and economic example of the United States of America challenges our cynicism and opens our eyes to opportunity and its power as a force for social good. And I hope that in turn that Ireland offers a determined expression of what we can achieve when patriotism finds a home of hard work, excellence in education, an international outlook which draws from the wealth of our heritage and the values of our people. And if the best of all these attributes have found a home in our Irish-American community, and I firmly believe that they have, so too will they hopefully guide and strengthen the economic and the political relationship between our two countries long into the future. It feels like a long time since my last visit to this library. It was just before Christmas of 1997. And those were, of course, very different days, both here and at home. And if we were laying the foundations at that time for peace in Northern Ireland, violence had not yet receded from public memory. At a political level, we had done much to develop contact and communication between Northern Ireland's political leaders. But relations were often still defined by distrust and detachment. And it was a difficult environment, and one which made the achievements of April 1998 all the more remarkable. By that stage, of course, we were guided by the wise and careful judgment of Senator George Mitchell, a genuine hero of the peace process, and a man correctly identified as someone with the patience and the tenacity to steer us towards a settlement. And for that nomination, and for so much more, we were blessed by the wisdom and good advice of President Clinton, who remained on hand at all times to advise those who needed to be advised and to reassure those who needed to be reassured. The Good Friday Agreement radically reshaped relations between Ireland and Great Britain, between Ireland, North and South, and between the different traditions within Northern Ireland. It instilled a new ethos of tolerance and respect into politics on the island and between our islands. It promoted sensible cooperation to everybody's mutual benefit, and it offered a future whereby the people of Northern Ireland were to be governed by the politicians who knew them best. There were, of course, sacrifices made on all sides, but for all of the compromises, the agreement represented our collective best effort to a new way forward. And the people knew it, endorsed the outcome of the negotiations by a huge margin, North and South, in the first free elections that we had held on an issue in the whole island of Ireland since 1918. It was a proud outcome, and yet, as Senator Mitchell reminded us, the hard work was only beginning, and Jean will remember this well. Over the years which followed, there were many difficult days when it looked like the new beginning would remain just out of touch and out of reach. But these were easily matched by the good days, some recorded for posterity, others that took place outside the public gaze. The news of a meeting between politicians or groups who had never before sat together, or stories told about how sworn enemies were beginning to discover common ground. The remarkable culmination of all of this was that famous day in the 8th of May of last year, when Ian Paisley and Martin McGuinness welcomed Prime Minister Blair and myself to the steps of Stormont to usher in a new era of representative government for the people of Northern Ireland. And the clip there showed me, reminded me of that day, which was just a few days before the 8th of May, when Dr. Ian Paisley, outside family buildings and government buildings in Phoenix Park, where Jean would know very well, where she lived for many years nearby. It was the first time in over 50 years in politics that Dr. Paisley had shook hands to an Irish Taoiseach. Up until that, he used to politely tell me he just could never shake my hand. So some things take 50 years. But anyway, the wonderful story of peace in Northern Ireland has cast, I think, of thousands of people were involved. But there are a few for whom I think we must reserve special mention, including those who were generously received by you here in the library, as Thomas said, back in December of 1998, and presented with Profile and Courage Awards in recognition of their work. John Hume and David Trimble showed great courage and foresight in the unprecedented days of the months and the weeks up to April 1998, and we were delighted that they were rightly rewarded with a Nobel Prize for their efforts. Gerry Adams and Mark McGuinness displayed great skill in leading their movements towards peace and partnership and a place at the centre of government. And in later years, Ian Paisley and Peter Robinson would similarly steer their parties towards compromises agreed at St Andrews in Scotland, which replaced the legacy of division with a promise of prosperity. We're grateful for all our friends across the United States in successive administrations in Congress and outside whose support and encouragement sustained us on that journey. The support we received from American representatives of all persuasions, Republican and Democrats, is something that has left a deep impression on me and so many of my colleagues at home as well. It is the unity of your support and your best wishes that have inspired to come together and prove worthy of your ambitions for all of us. Nowhere has this been more true than in the personal commitment as shown for all of the time, from start to finish, by the Kennedy family. I remember a speech that Senator Edward Kennedy made and gave in Derry a couple of months before the Good Friday Agreement, when things were at their height, when every day the world press, there was several thousands of media following the event, and everyone wondering, would we make progress or would it just be the same? Would we go back? Would it be same old question in Ireland that 800 years of troubles, the recent round of 30 years of troubles, would it ever come to an end? Senator Edward Kennedy came to Derry, and when doubters were everywhere, he stood and he said, and I quote, "A new spirit of hope is gaining momentum. We are building an irresistible force that can make the immovable object move." There were powerful words, and it was that kind of belief that made us believe and we thank you for that, Ted. He has given a lifetime of service and commitment to this task, intervening to great effect on many crucial moments. And as a young politician, and even when I wasn't a politician, his St. Patrick's Day statements gave us hope that it didn't always have to be this way. And the senior senator from Massachusetts has been an unstinting friend and stalwart champion of the peace process. Today we have peace in Ireland, Ted, and we could not have done that without you, and we appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, while the road to any peace process is a difficult one, and in Ireland it was that way too, it taught us many important lessons about conflict and the ways in which it can be put behind us. We believe that some of what we have learned may be relevant to conflicts in other parts of the world, and to share those lessons and to engage more directly in active peacemaking and peace building, we are taking forward a conflict resolution initiative. When President Kennedy addressed the joint houses of the Oireachtas during the visit in 1963, as the Senator has quoted this morning, he spoke for us with a confidence that perhaps it took us a long time to get there, but of his vision for our future role in the world and our destiny, and that audience not as a peaceful island in a sea of troubles, but as a maker and shaper of world peace. And that was his quote to us. And as we emerge from what has been a long and a difficult conflict, and you saw the statistics on that short video and many more of the horrors that you go through in a conflict, there is a new era of peace and reconciliation. President Kennedy's words seem particularly appropriate to us now. Not as a peaceful island in a sea of troubles, but as a maker and shaper of world peace. And the progress in our country over the past 10 years has allowed Ireland's foreign policy to enter into a new phase. The experience of our peace process has perhaps given us tools with which we can work to fulfil President Kennedy's vision in a new era. And that is why the Irish Government has decided to make conflict resolution one of our key foreign policy priorities for the future. Our conflict resolution initiative will build on our experiences from Northern Ireland peace process and our growing programme of overseas development assistance. It will complement our long-standing commitments to disarmament, our support for the United Nations, the promotion of human rights throughout the world, and our partnership with other members of the European Union. And the lessons from our involvement in the Northern Ireland peace process may not translate directly to other conflict situations across the globe. Nevertheless, there are elements of the approach taken in the development of the Good Friday Agreement, elements related to the issues of sovereignty, to the creation of structures and inclusive government institutions, to reform of the police, to all-island cooperation, that if nothing else provide good examples to show that seemingly intractable problems can be resolved and provide encouragement to those committed to building peace. And the development of our work in this area will be a gradual process, but already we have agreed with the government of one of the world's newest nations, Timor-Leste, and we will work with them to assist in building sustainable peace in that troubled country. 10 years ago, ladies and gentlemen, and 10 years on from the Good Friday Agreement being signed, the image of Ireland we are now able to present to the world is an island transformed. The story today is one of peace, one of partnership, one of economic success that has been the envy of many of our friends around the world. Much has been achieved, but of course challenges remained. And this is the way with normal politics, where there are always tough decisions ahead. The next of those in relation to the devolution of policing and justice in Northern Ireland is an issue that we are looking at and looking to the Executive to make progress on as soon as possible. The time is now right for them to take this leap. And we build our new Ireland founded on equality, on partnership. And we thank those who have got us to this point. We will do well, Ireland, North and South, to remember the words of President Kennedy himself. As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. There were great words by President Kennedy, and it is our job to live by them now. We are greatly and deeply grateful for the support and counsel of all our friends here and throughout the United States. And we express our appreciation of your commitment to peace and reconciliation with a determination to ensure its fruits are enjoyed to the greatest extent possible by the generations that are to come. And if I can, in conclusion, to say, and I've said this many times, I've said it in the Irish Parliament, I've said it in the European Parliament, I said it in the address to the joint houses the other day, and Senator Kennedy got a fitting response from his colleagues on all sides for it. But I've been around the political system a long time, and I don't just say the words of appreciation to Jean and to Vicky and to Ted and to Caroline, but through all of the years, and I remember when I returned from Dublin on the night of Good Friday, and I was glad, I can tell you, to get out of Belfast and back home to my native place in Dublin. The first telephone call that I got was from you, Ted. And on so many other times, so many other difficult days after the Omagh bombing, when it seemed as if the work that we had done went up literally in a terrible death, one of the biggest atrocities of all of the Troubles, you were the first person to ring. And on so many other times, you found the time amongst their huge responsibilities. And I saw that in your office yesterday, as I've had since the first time we met in 1983 in that office. We appreciate what you've done. We appreciate the Kennedys. The legacy the Kennedy family have left to Ireland is immense. And in this location in the Kennedy Library, I want to say to all of the Kennedy family our appreciation to them all for helping Ireland, to be friends of Ireland, to be part of Ireland, and long may that remain. Gur míle maith.